Hey, how's it going? My name is Hocus, and welcome back to the Minecraft LP series here on the Hocus Pocus channel. How you doing today? How you doing? I'm doing pretty good. It's been a decent week so far, I would say. I hope you guys are having a good one also. So right now, we are down in the ravine base, and if you were with me for episode 20, this, of course, being episode 21, you'll remember we did this split test with the flooring here, so we had a calculated pattern on one side, a random pattern on the other, and then we had this centerpiece here. So we haven't yet received too much feedback on this, so I'm just going to wait for a few more episodes before we finalize the deal. And that leads us into something a little bit different that I have planned for today's episode, but something that I think is going to be pretty darn awesome. So when it comes to wood collecting in the world, we have this really poorly organized tree farm over here. And this has always been something that I kind of rushed just to make sure that we had wood available and required. But since then, I have moved on to a slightly different method of collection. This other method of collecting is one where we grow 4 2x2 spruce trees. I sort of fly up to the top here. And when I say sort of, I mean I definitely do fly up to the top here. And then we just start working our way through the layers. So we begin right at the top here, make sure we collect all of the wood up. And then eventually when all of the trees are exposed, you'll have a nice 4x4 area, which means that you'll get 16 logs for each layer. And you just work your way down and down and down until you've harvested all the trees. Then of course you wait for the leaves to despawn to get your saplings back, and you can restart and regrow from the very beginning. But both of these methods are pretty outdated. They're very slow and require a lot of manual attention, so I have to sit here and actually mine the wood myself. But there has been a change to TNT in a recent update, and that means that TNT actually provides 100% of the blocks that it breaks when you explode it. So TNT is now a pretty efficient way to be blasting trees and creating tree farms, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. Alright then guys, so I think I've scouted out a location for the farm, which we'll go over in just a moment. First of all though, I need to see what we're doing in terms of resources. So we're going to need dispensers and repeaters for the most part. We also need pistons, preferably regular pistons. I think we don't require sticky, so we may as well save them. And also in this shulker box, I think glass is definitely going to come into the equation at some point, so we'll take that and maybe just fill it up with a few useful things. But for now, we're going to be crafting some of the essentials. This should just about do it. So we've got building blocks. I'm not going to worry too much about the aesthetics of this farm as we're building it, but maybe we'll come back to that later to fix things up. We need a bunch of redstone. I said, of course, already that we need repeaters and dispensers. I completely forgot to craft the pistons, so I'll do that in just a moment. But I think we're also going to need a bunch of hoppers. Again, that is something we can come back for later though, because that's part of the collection system. Right now, we're just going to be building the TNT destruction part of the system. The site of our next creation in the world was actually going to be right here, where the spruce trees were growing. But I've just peeked over here and realized that there is a bunch of flat land on the other side of this small pool area. So I think we're actually going to change locations and do it over here instead. So first of all, what we're going to want to do is just make sure the terrain is indeed flat. So we can do that by removing a bunch of this dirt here. Now, before we get down to building, I must confess that this is not my design at all. This is a design that I saw in an LP episode from Etho, and it's something that he has built in his world, but it's a pretty awesome design, so I'm going to be using it here in mine. We might add our own tweaks, but the basis of this design is totally his. So what you want to do is have 4 2x2 areas surrounding a center point like this. And then in that center point, we are going to pillar up 26 blocks. So this is going to be the first block after making everything level. And you guys can feel free to count with me. So this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And then once you've hit the 26th block, you want to grab your building blocks, which unfortunately I didn't prepare beforehand, and just come up by a block. And this is where the building is going to begin. So from here, we can just take out this pillar. Oh, didn't manage to do too much to it there. But this is now free to be removed, and you can also take your center block back out like so, and we can get on with the redstone work here. All right, and next up is to release this center block. That's where the TNT will fall in between the trees to destroy the blocks. And then we'll have kind of like a ring shape that comes around like so. We can get rid of this block also. I'll try to grab it. Perfect. And then I suppose the pistons can go on the base side of things. And I say base side because the base is right there. So this is the base side of this build. And then on the reverse, we can go ahead and place down our first dispenser. So I believe in total, we'll have 6 dispensers on one side and 6 pistons on the other. And the pistons are going to be timed to hold the TNT in place for a little bit before it is dropped. And then that will allow the explosions to make their way up the tree and not destroy any blocks in the process. From this point out, it's a pretty basic pattern that you need to follow for each of the dispensers in the build. However, it's just a matter of whether or not I'm going to be able to remember it. So I think we begin like this. And already I'm struggling to remember. I think we actually have to go into a block. And that goes directly into another block like so. And that means that we need redstone here, repeater there. Then I believe, again, we go into another block like so, and back on ourselves above the repeater so that we're snaking over the top of the original redstone. Then it will be redstone, redstone, double repeater. I think every repeater in the build has to be set to 4 ticks. So let's just make sure we did that down below. Yep, 4 ticks, 4 ticks, 4 ticks. And what I'm going to do, any unnecessary blocks like that, I'm just going to break out. Now we need to get back up to the position we were building from. And we're almost back at the second, or we're back at the next dispenser right now. So we need a block beneath for the dispenser to sit on. We can come back a couple blocks to place it, pop it in, and then as I say, the pattern just repeats itself. So what we'll do is we'll come into our next repeater, and we'll be beginning from this point right here. So again, let's get back up there and see if we can remember what we're doing. Now, I hope this is right, because if we get to the end and I somehow have got this wrong and end up exploding the build, that would be a little bit of a nightmare. So I'm trying to make sure that we get this right first time. So that means we'll go into a couple more blocks, redstone and repeater. Make sure to get them all at 4 ticks. And then again, we go into our next step up and step over the repeater. And that means we need 2 redstone. And then double repeater. So 1 and 2. Again, 4 ticks each. And this leads us into the 3rd dispenser. So again, 1 more dispenser right there. And so on and so forth. And you'll also recognize that I built a lot more, or I should say crafted, a bunch more repeaters, because the amount that we originally had was never going to suffice. You need quite a few for this build. And the piston side is even simpler, because at this point we've already got the pattern on one side for the dispensers. We've got 6 in total, as you can see. So we just need to copy that, and in place of the dispensers, we'll have a block. So we'll begin with a repeater, of course, 4 ticks, repeater, 4 ticks. We're then going to go up a block, something like this, and then out 1 more block. We can then place down 1 piece of redstone and another repeater at 4 ticks. Then we're going to go up a block. And like I say, this is super, super simple because we're just mirroring exactly what we've got on this side. So we're going to go up like so with 2 pieces of redstone. Then we're going to go again a couple blocks over like this. And here is, I guess, the tricky part. We need to somehow get our piston in. And the more that we climb here, the more difficult this is going to be. So for this one, we can just do something like that. Nice and simple. But this means that we're going to have to, once again with the flying, just fly in and out of the structure to make sure we can get back to where we were working. Atop the piston, we'll go with a block. Far side of the piston, another block. And rinse and repeat. I think you guys probably get the picture by now. So let me finish this up. You know, it's actually quite a simple piece of redstone technology when you look at it. It's very concise and very small. The only strange thing about it is that it's floating in the sky, but we'll make sure that doesn't look too strange in the future. Anyway, this is where the trusty glass is going to come into play. And fortunately, I've got enough dye for 2 stacks of the light gray stuff. And that's exactly what we want to be using here, just to fit the theme of the block types used. As I say, I'm not too concerned about the aesthetics right now. We can always change this further down the line, and it won't be too difficult to do so. But what we need to ensure here is that the TNT stays centered. So the best way to do that is to just create a nice tube that goes up through the middle. And this will be made of glass so that we can see inside this thing when it's operating. So I'm just going to take this all the way to the top. Okay guys, that'll do the trick. So we've got a nice glass tube that makes sure all of the TNT is going to stay in the center of the farm. And from this point, we can begin adding the controls. So I haven't left myself much room to maneuver here. And you kind of do need a little bit of room, which is silly of me. So let's see what we can do. We need to get a block somewhere down there. Here, let's break these two out. I've got to be careful as well with that haste 2 beacon. Things could easily go a little bit wrong here if we start misclicking. So this will be the area in which we begin the signal. So I believe that we're free to remove this repeater and actually replace it with redstone. Oh, that actually leaves us 1 repeater short as well. So we need 5 in total. And what they'll do is wrap around like this. We'll have 3 in a row, like so. And once again, all of these can be at 4 ticks. We'll have 1 more right here. And then we'll need a few more blocks to connect up. We'll need redstone here, redstone here. We're actually going to invert this signal. So that requires a redstone torch on the back side of this block. And that will extend the pistons. Slowly but surely, they'll make their way all the way to the top. Finally, we're going to need a lever, which we can, whoa, and that's what we need to be careful of right there. Slight misclick. So, cobblestone, stick gives us a lever. The lever can go here, and that's how we'll control the farm. This block right here, I don't know where that came from, but we definitely don't need it, so I'm going to take it out. And then, as I say, our final repeater is going to go right here, and again, that will be set to 4 ticks. Final repeater in at 4 ticks, and we've got all of the piston heads extended. So if we were to give this a signal, we should begin seeing the pistons retract 1 by 1. Off they go. And you can also hear the dispensers firing. So the dispensers will fire before the pistons retract. And then once the signal shuts off, you should see them all once again extend outwards. So I think the best thing to do now would actually be to test this thing for real. It looks like it's timed okay. I don't think I've screwed anything up here. And I hope not too, because as I mentioned earlier, if this does go wrong, this system's just going to explode. And that would be pretty painful after all the work we've put in. So give me just a moment. I'm going to head over to the desert, gather up a bunch of sand because we're going to need to stock all of those dispensers with TNT. And then we'll get back and give this thing the very first test run. Hopefully we can make a decent amount of TNT with the sand that we've just gathered. We're going to need a bunch of gunpowder also, so let's just grab as many stacks as we can. And the sand does not fit in our inventory, of course. Here, let's make some quick sacrifices that we can come back and pick up in just a moment. Should make it a little bit easier on ourselves. So sand, come on, fill up the inventory. TNT, very easy. Okay, that's 1 stack, 2 stacks. Out of gunpowder already. Holy cow. We're going to need to AFK at the mob farm, I believe, to restock ourselves after this. All right, we're out of sand, so let's get a little bit more sand. And out of gunpowder again. It's like we're back and forth, out of one thing, out of the next thing. And that is going to do it, I think. So what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks and 10 pieces. That's not bad at all, actually, to get us started off. Let's make sure we pick up our other items. And I think what we'll do as well is we'll actually just dump all of this in the shulker box for now and take that guy with us as it is. So I split the TNT up evenly and threw the remainder in the shulker box, and it came to 44 each. So that means we can run this thing 44 times without running out. As if I needed to explain that to you guys, but that's not too bad at all to get us started. So what we're going to do is grow 4 trees like so. And that, of course, gives us a bunch of podzol as well, which is never a bad thing, I suppose. Podzol's a useful block in certain situations. All right, I'm struggling to grow them. I might actually run out of bone meal here as well, which is not good. Oh, no, we survived by 2 pieces. Awesome. So the next step is to fly back up, and you want to just carve a hole out in the middle of the trees, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. I think we'd be better off with shears here, but I'm going to just have to power on through without them for the moment. So find the center of the farm, and then you're going to want to just make a gap through the leaves, because the TNT has to be able to drop down. If it doesn't drop down, it will begin exploding things that it shouldn't be exploding. And then we're going to want to escape from our wooden tomb here. And I think I'm just going to replace these, just in case that will affect the way the farm works. And then we should be good for launch. So can we make it? Nope. Of course. Come on, Hocus. Figure it out. Come on. It's not too difficult. And there we go. So, again, hit the lever, make our way out of there, and we should see some explosions. There we go. It's beginning. Uh-oh. So something wasn't quite right. Exactly as I had feared, something wasn't right. I think, though, fortunately for us, since that was the last piece of TNT to go off, we should be able to retrieve all of the items. So let's get rid of this wood. Hopefully we can get those leaves to despawn. And we need to fix this up because something just isn't quite right about it at the moment. Watching back the footage, it seems as though the TNT was released a little bit too late. And that's why it exploded way up there when it should have been exploding down here. And I'm sure I've figured out the problem. So we're going to give this thing another run. And hopefully this time we can get things right. So I've restocked this guy, 43 TNT. One more thing we probably should do is close up this gap here. Did we close this gap last time? I don't remember. That is definitely something we should probably do this time, though. If we didn't do that last time, now we need to line ourselves up perfectly with this block here and then go through the center once again. And then eventually you can add all sorts of contraptions to this device and just make it that much simpler to do everything. But we'll get to that probably in a different episode. I just want to make sure this thing works for the time being. So we'll reseal that back up as we did last time. Clear out our hotbar and go and fix the issue. And I will show you guys exactly what I believe to be wrong here. So we've got this 20 tick delay that goes all the way around. This guy right here should actually be set to just the single tick, not the 4th tick. So everything else is set at 4 ticks. This one's just going to be at 1 or 2. I don't know what the default state is. I guess it's 2, right? Because this would be 2. Oh, no, it's 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so 1 tick. We want this to be at 1 tick. And I think that's why everything was released too late. So hopefully this time when we pull the lever, we get something a little bit different. Let's stand back and observe once again. Okay, first blast was much closer to the ground. That's a great sign. We're on our way up. And then the final piece. And we're good. We made it through unscathed. Awesome. So you can see as well that this farm doesn't create too much mess. Everything is collected quite centrally. So once we get some hoppers down in the area, we should be able to collect things automatically instead of coming in like this. And then eventually we'll also have some pistons that push these blocks up so that we can force the bottom logs up and then just immediately replant, regrow, and then go for round 2. It's a pretty cool contraption. I really like it. And in regard to the collection system, I'm just marking out right now exactly where I want this to go. So let's remove our shulker boxes and temporary crafting bench here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out from the middle point 7 blocks outside of the growth zone. So that'll be a nice diagonal square type shape, or diamond type shape, I guess it is, if it's on the diagonal. And we're just going to remove all of the podzol. So eventually we'll replace everything here with hoppers, and they'll lead into a specific chest location. But I think also what I'm going to do is just replace this second layer of dirt down here with some stone brick, so that if in the future we're in the area and we're digging around, we know not to dig into the stone brick, because that is where we've got our contraption set up. So this is where things stand with the collection area marked out. So I've got the stone brick in place, and then of course our contraption sits above it, looking quite funny in the air there. So one more test run, I think, just to make sure that when everything drops, it drops in the zone that we've laid out here. Just to double check. And then we'll think about wrapping up today's episode. And then, of course, another reason why we're going to test run this thing again is just because it's pretty awesome. And I like using TNT. It's something we haven't done a lot of in this series just yet. So come on now. Is it going to make it difficult for me to grow these trees now? I hope not. Doesn't seem to be working too well, does it? I've just chewed through a bunch of bone meal. Try this one. Okay, that one's done. Come on, guy. There we go. All right. So then once again, fly up to the very top and break our way through. And I've made sure to reset the contraption. I think running it on a button is going to be a lot more favorable in the long run. But obviously for now, we're going to just have to use the lever because we don't have anything else set up. And doing this with shears would also be a much better idea. But once again, we're just underprepared today. So I'm going to continue doing it the way we've always done it. Fill the gaps back in. Fly up one more time. And this is where the fun begins. Off we go. I'm going to try and get up on this hill here. All right, looks good. Okay, so far so good still. I'm quite confident it's still working. And okay, so it doesn't really matter if we miss parts at the top because the trees are going to grow regardless. And let's just see if anything fell outside of the area. So this was quite close to the edge, but it remained inside, which is good. And I don't see anything else on the outsides. I think most of it actually drops into the leaves and such. So getting rid of these last little bits of wood is going to be quite crucial when collecting our riches from this farm. So let's just hop up here and make sure we do that. And I'll just give you guys an overview as well of what I've managed to collect from using this farm. And I've only, bear in mind, we've only ran it, I think like 3 or 4 times in this episode. I can't actually remember. But I think 3 or 4 times we've ran it. And so far we've got quite a good amount of wood, right? This is a very, very efficient way to collect wood, very quick. And overall quite satisfying because, as I say, TNT is very fun and we don't use it often in this series. Alright guys, I think that'll do it for today's episode. So this has been episode 21 of Hocus Plays Minecraft. I, of course, have been Hocus Pocus. I hope you had fun with this one. This is one of my favorite builds so far, that is for sure. Just the, I know I've said it already, but the use of TNT is always a great time in Minecraft. So I really like this and I'm glad we managed to get it built in today's episode. As I've mentioned, there will be a lot more additions to make to this farm, but for now it's nice and basic and it works, which is the main thing. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, a like would be graciously appreciated, greatly appreciated down below. Any suggestions, comments, feedback, anything to do with today's video that you want to comment about, make sure to leave that down below in the comment section. And finally, if you're new to the Hocus Pocus channel, then firstly, welcome. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. Secondly, if you wouldn't mind considering hitting that subscribe button, that would be awesome. So go ahead and do that right now if that's something you want to do. That will allow you to stay tuned to this series and any other videos that we decide to post. So once again, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.